There's good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another Sunday evening at the round table. I want to say big up to all the listeners because I see that I have some faithful listeners. We have some faithful listeners. And I want to hear them. Gentlemen, last week was a very busy time in Jamaica. We not only heard the news about Rattigan lawsuit against the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we also heard from the Prime Minister Holness sound like a man out of ideas, making up a lot of noise in response to the killing in St. James. And I am not sure where the government is taking the people in what direction. But what is clear is that the Jamaican government is having a very difficult time when it comes to crime and violence in Jamaica. My name is Mikey Nita, and with me is Patrick McCarthy and Las Crawford, two regular panelists on this channel. Today we're going to discuss some issues. One, we're waiting to hear from Mr. Rattigan. He will be joining us at some point to discuss the outcome of the first stage in his struggle to hold accountable the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Jamaica. Mr. Rattigan will be late because he's on some assignment. So he'll join us later in the show. John Horton, Mr. John Horton will join us also, and he will be presenting argument for development of a people's manifesto, a working people manifesto relevant to Jamaica. Mr. Horton is not here with us. He did text me and said that he will be joining us. So let us wait on him. Maxine is another panelist, and she will be joining us at some point. Okay, and I think that's it in terms of the panelists for this edition. Gentlemen, have you followed the news in Jamaica over the past couple of weeks, or even last week?
A little bit. I wasn't too attuned to what was happening.
I've been kind of looking at the state of emergency situation. I heard the Prime Minister's statements and I heard of the saw in the Glean about the state of emergency declared in Montego Bay or in St. James, I should say. And of course, there's much concern about that because when it comes to the state of emergency and Jamaica, this government is known to misuse, you know, their authority in terms of using the state of emergency just to suspend people's rights and as such trample on, people's freedom, you know. So there's much to be concerned about as it relates to that because the state of emergency does not, in effect, reduce crime. And
No,
it really
it
is
does
not a
not.
state of emergency. It really is not a state of emergency because Jamaica is not at war with anyone, which would be one of the main reasons for them to hold a state of emergency. Then, of course, as you might have heard, there's also preparations being made to send Jamaican military personnel or police. I'm not sure which one to Haiti. So it's a number of things going on in the news, actually.
I want us to stay on the SOE, and I want us to do that because in today's newspaper, Truman was a very interesting article there where he said, reject the El Salvador model of dealing with crime and violence and continue with the Jamaican democratic model. There seems to be an argument to adopt that model where wholesale just detain people. And this is something that was pushed by Montague, calling for to identify gangsters and lock them up, like what is happening in El Salvador. Are you familiar with the El Salvador model?
Yeah, man.
Are you?
Yeah.
And Trevor is saying, no, let's focus on the Jamaican tradition, democratic approach. But it seems as if this government is preparing, this prime minister is preparing the ground for a shutdown of the country, because this state of emergency that was declared in St. James, it came after two schoolboys was killed, right? Were killed, right? That's when it happened, and the prime minister came out. He said, "Enough, enough." But what sort of struck me was his move from criminal to terrorist, calling folks now terrorists. And I think he's sort of setting up a situation where they can declare a state of emergency. I'm not sure island wide or what, but it definitely moving in a certain direction. And I say that because when you listen to him, it seems as if he and the Jamaica Labour Party now face the reality that they might lose the election. And they're trying to find a way how to prevent that from happening. And I'm not sure how that is going to be done, because the sentiment on the street, but oldness must go. What do you guys think? Am I wrong to say that the prime minister is setting up for a bigger occasion, a bigger to declare a massive stage?
The thing is, Mikey, I think it was about probably 2 months ago that the prime minister was using the same term about terrorism, and suggesting that the government would have to use some more hardline measures to combat crime in the country, suggesting that as if they would be not relying on like legislation and that thing, but some kind of extra legal police kind of activity. This was about probably 2 months ago that he was suggesting something like that. So it is not surprising that he's emphasizing on the whole issue of terrorism when it comes to criminality in the country, because they realize that the SOE of themselves not working, and they're losing support not just because of the crime, but generally in the country. And they need to do something to reclaim, some of that lost ground. And I think they're trying. I think they feel that if they take some strong actions against criminals, whether it is legal or not, people will start saying that they're doing something. So I think they're looking in that direction.
Strong action.
Jerry Connolly, Congressman, thanks for joining us on this. Appreciate it. So we're looking at this place or possibly.
Patrick, can you turn off your stuff for me, please? Yeah. Strong action seems to be what Montague is suggesting. Montague is suggesting that we adopt the El Salvador model, where the government just go around and detain people and suspend people constitutional rights and what have you. You know, that would be a stronger model. But I think if we seriously want to talk about crime and violence and dealing with that, then the only approach I see is to bring the Jamaican people into the discussion. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. They seem like they want to manage the crime portfolio from the top rather than, as Trevor suggests, using the democratic tradition that we have, bring citizens into the process, give them more power to play a greater role in securing their community. But nobody's want to go in that direction. Yeah? Patrick, what do you think?
As I
Why
as I as I, as I noticed, coming out a discussion I was having earlier this week, is that with elections coming up and all that, and back in 2016 thereabout, I think it was, right, there was a whole series of state emergency, moving across the whole island, right, and to be talking about state of emergency in an election season or leading up to an election season is one of the ways of really, I guess you could call it manipulating the votes, or manipulating the turnout for voting. That's one factor. Then again, we have to look at, not too long ago, the whole numbers that was released by the commissioner around crime, right? Which really was not giving the real picture of what was really taking place. And all of these things, played a role in terms of how the government manipulates a situation for setting the stage, right, to do just what they might want to do. So, we might be looking at simply, just the state of emergency being called now, and it's arising out of the killing of the school age um boy. But it's actually much more than that. It's part of a whole sinister plot, to manipulate a situation, and um maybe to preserve themselves being in power.
yes, but I I wonder how far that is going to go, because last week you heard about the bomb threats, the bomb
Yeah,
threats
Yeah, in the
we
schools,
that
in the
heard about
schools.
CMC, yeah,
the
yes,
finding
it's
well, it's this week about the bomb threats earlier this week.
yeah,
Yeah, this past
yeah.
week. Mhm.
It's like they're creating an atmosphere. There's a deliberate attempt to create an atmosphere of fear and panic. And one person said to me, it seems as if the aim is to lock down St. James, Clarendon, St. Catherine, and Kingston and St. Andrew.
Yeah,
Over 60% of Jamaican population reside in that area, And if you can impose a state of emergency in that area, that create problem for the opposition party in terms of the work, organizing the people, right? Wouldn't that the opposition
of course,
party
because
serious problem?
what it means too is that, you know just in terms of public events, whether it be electioneering campaign or anything like that, all of these things will come under strict ris- strict control and restrictions. You know, so that's the whole thing about it. It's really a control lever, right? The state emergency is being seen as a control lever that the government is setting up to use, in
But
order to intimidate votes.
at the same time, I think all the things that the government is doing right now when it comes to crime, it reveals a level of frustration and a level of confusion amongst the leadership of the government. You see, they have been saying a lot of things, and they have been saying that the crime is on one hand, they're saying crime is under control. All major crimes have been reduced over some specific period, while at the same time, they're grappling with different things because they realize that the people don't believe the kind of stories that they're putting out, that the stories that the commissioner and the police high command constantly putting out to try and tell the people in the midst of all the murders, in the midst of all the shooting, the police high command and the Jamaica Labour Party seems to be telling people that things are better and things are getting better. And it's not getting better, and they realize that. And they realize that they're losing support rapidly to the PNP. And that is what is creating the confusion. Andrew Holness, on one hand, saying they're going after the criminals. That's Andrew Holness and the Minister of National Security. When things happen, they say, yes, we're going after these people, we're going to get them. No stone will be left unturned, and nothing happens. So people not really believing the things they are saying. So they are showing a lot of confusion. On one hand, they keep reintroducing the SOEs that not really making any ground and making any headway in terms of controlling the crime, right? And they seem to be changing their positions on a number of issues. Recently, it is being said
Not
that
making any ground.
yeah, they're not making any ground in terms of dealing with the crime rate in the country, right? So in some instances, you hear the media saying Andrew Holness has changed his position on the death penalty. They're grappling with they're trying to like reach out and hold on to straws right now, right? Because nothing they're doing is working, right? They feel that if they go out and do some whole scale, I mean, lockdown of people, extra legal action against criminals and all that thing, I mean, they might gain some more support because people might eventually think, well, they're doing something on about crime, but right now, nothing they're doing is working.
But let's not forget either that there's that whole unsettled situation too with the GACF, right? Where that unsettlement over what is it?
Salaries,
Huh?
um, salary payments, like
Yes, yes, right,
outstanding
yeah,
overtime payments.
right. And even in terms of equipment and all of that stuff too, you know, equipment, uniform, the whole works. And so it's not like we have seen where the government has been um holding up their end in terms of really administering in a way that can effectively address crime, right? They are really just using the SOE,
I'm not hearing the
right, as a
last so
distraction.
well. Patrick,
You not hearing me, Mikey?
Freeze.
You hear me, last?
Yeah, man, you're clear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It look like Michael freeze up again.
Yeah, but
Mike, Mike, can you hear?
what about the equipment?
Shortage of equipment. Yeah, it look like Mike having technical difficulties.
But one of the things I am confused about, Patrick, Mike, is that they recently made amendments to the Firearms Act,
But if
right?
if he's going to use the SOE, can you hear me, Lass?
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you.
Can you hear me, Patrick?
Yeah, I hear you now, but you kept going in and out. For the most part, you were frozen.
Yes. If he's going to use the SOE, he hear me now, Patrick?
You're cutting out every now and then.
Freeze up.
Yeah, we're not hearing you clearly.
Can you hear me? Patrick?
Yeah, we're not hearing you clearly.
Lass,
We hear you,
can you hear me?
and you're going in and
We're
out.
hearing you.
Lass.
You're breaking
Yes, I
up.
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hear you now, but you're
Patrick.
breaking up regularly.
Lass?
You're breaking up regularly, Mikey.
Patrick? Not hearing.
Not hearing you.
Go ahead, man. Continue. You can.
Mikey, if you have any other programs
Lass.
open on your computer, you probably need to close them.
But can you? I hear you, Lass. Can you hear me?
Bandwidth for deal with this.
You hearing me now?
Yeah.
I'm here. The bandwidth is not the problem. I just your thing is freezing up. It's like somebody. This.
I think it's your system, Mikey.
Yeah, I guess what he was trying to say is he was trying to make some point about the SOE.
One of the things I don't understand, Patrick, recently they amended the Firearms Act, right? To include like 15 years for what, the minimum of 15 years for a firearm offense or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure the actual number, but
and since the killing of these youths, these two kids in Montego Bay, Holness is again suggesting that there needs to be amendment to the Firearms Act to be more to combat gun crimes. I don't know. That's why I'm saying there seems to be so much confusion
But
In what they are suggesting to fight crime is as if they're reaching for the straw. There's no coherent policy direction right now when it comes to crime. It's like a touch and go and grab at everything and anything. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yes, sir, Herb.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm
Good,
I
pretty
good.
good.
trust. I
I
apologize to everybody, man. This time change got me, and there's some stuff that just rolling over at home
Okay.
that I had to deal with. But good to see you, Michael, Pat, Les.
Yeah,
Where's
good
the
to
rest
see
of
you.
our
Good
crew
seeing
at,
yeah,
you.
man?
Herb, we have been talking about.
Yeah,
They'll joining
Michael.
us. They'll be
Can
joining us.
I can hardly hear your mic. You're breaking up badly.
Yeah,
Herb.
I take it you're talking about crime and the murders. That's just
and
seem.
the SOE.
Oh, state of emergency.
Yeah,
Well, they I assume that stopped that because they were getting sued. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Because
I'm not.
b- yeah, they it was ruled
No, they declare one in
unconstitutional.
St. James.
They declared one in St. James recently.
Yeah. hmm
Okay,
That
well,
that that was that
Yeah,
was the
last
argument this week, right?
as
That
to,
that one was being declared in
last
St.
week.
James
yeah.
last week. Last week, yeah.
Well, you know, I think of Jamaica in a certain way now because look at the Pastelian situation. You don't have police patrols. You don't tamp down by doing community policing, right? I always ask myself, what if the Israelis were doing community policing versus? Can you imagine F-16s in Jamaica bombing these districts around Montego Bay where the problems are to get rid of what I call local terrorists? Because that's what they do. They terrorize the neighborhood. They go in there and kill each other, whether they're gang against gang or whether it's some kind of political vendettas that they have to settle. But you cannot have this type of murder steadily ongoing and not poor police officers to do regular patrols, street by street if you have to, and shut it down, right? I'm willing to bet you right now at that Montego Bay police station, the one out on the main road, or Coral Gardens, or whichever one of them that's in charge, you have police officers sitting up in the station, jaw jacking, right? They have to come up with a strategy to flood the zone with police officers, with soldiers, right? And if it means that they are in the zone and they're being seen, they're well armed, and they're walking up and down those streets, nothing is going to happen when it comes to these gang killings, organized killings. But the minute they're not there, it's going to continue, right? They have to give the people some kind of service. I know there might be safeguarding up where the hearts live, and these are the highfalutin millionaires, billionaires down there. But they have to give some semblance of protection to these people to allow them and their kids to get outdoors and smell fresh air. This doesn't make any sense.
But what are your thoughts, sir? Do you think that calling a state of emergency actually you know substantiates some of these things you're talking about in terms of moving on crime?
State of emergency interferes with the normal flow of things in our community amongst the good people.
Yeah, it
It,
makes
it,
life miserable, in
right.
fact.
It makes their lives more miserable. So the question then you have to ask, okay, who are the troublemakers? Who are the ones that are stirring the pot every time they get a chance to? Who are the ones trying to control things? Is it the Dons? Right? You can isolate the Dons very quickly. Right? We said before that if you get all the youth, and they've done this before, when we suggested it, they took all the young people and they put them through a training program with the Maritime University. Can you imagine taking non-grads and training them to be stevedores, training them to work on the wharves, right? And normally you have to have like 5 CXC passes and stuff like that. Well, the non-grads did pretty well. They were able to use rote learning and figure out what they had to do, and by through repetition. So if indeed this will work, then for heaven's sake, we need to train these folks up to work around the airport, work around the wharves, even if it means that they're doing what we call sanitation engineering that they do here in the parks, on the streets. I mean, it's a tourist area. They should be able to get these guys out there on a regular basis doing cleanup, and not use the funding for it for kickback so that they can run local elections and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that's happening that prevents you employing these people on a regular basis and getting them out there to earn money, because they got baby mothers and others that they got to take care of.
But here's the thing, Herb, as you had mentioned before, you actually joined us, that there's also the issue of unsettled salary situation with the JCF, right? That still is something that has not been addressed, right?
Well,
And also, right, this past week, the Prime Minister too, in some joint announcement with the Commissioner and the Minister of National Security, was talking about increasing the numbers of the JCF and increasing equipment and supplies. So it's kind of like using the moment to make announcements, which, as far as we are concerned, it's just announcements, because these are some of the measures that was called for some time now, and none of that has been addressed.
well, let me say this. Corporal James pushed hard on getting these people paid. The money was provided by the Minister of Finance. The court order was there from March. So from March till now, you have an 8-month lapse that the Commissioner of Police has failed to comply with. And it's just willy-nilly that they can ignore the law and do as they please. We see the same thing with Ratty's case. They have ignored the law and doing damn well what they please, right? So where do you go from here? How do you get people to comply? Maybe they need to start hitting in these iron neighborhoods, right? If those people can hear gunshots all night, then maybe they will respond quicker and want to pay these police officers if they decide we're not going out there until we get our overtime money, right? This is software we're talking about, installation of software to calculate regular pay and overtime pay. This software is common in most of your Commonwealth countries. So maybe you can ask one of the Commonwealth countries, Malaysia or somebody else, using best practices, and try to get them to come in and give you professional development advice.
But even to that point, if we're talking about software, it's not new technology we're talking about. It's technology that exists. Right?
Best
So I mean that
practices
there's
is
nothing
just
really
that.
technical about that.
Not at all, right? They have these software been out there in use, I would say, for 2 decades. Why Jamaica is so backward is beyond me. And guess what? Keep in mind, during the year, the CEO from Grace Kennedy, who's also a senator, had to complain that 2/3 of the money budgeted for the police was not used, and they were missing out on police vehicles. I mean, buying something as simple as motorcycles for the police. Better yet, the seized vehicles I see at these police stations fill up the back of the yard of the police station, seize motorbikes, seize cars, right? What is it going to take? If you seize them and the cases are passed, then maybe you can fix them up, put the police colors on it, put some flashers on it, flashing units on it, and use it. Well, that Mike, everybody disappear now. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So they have enough
Yeah, there
seizures.
now, bro.
Huh? They have enough seizures. They have enough seizures in terms of cars, in terms of motorcycles, boats, what have you, that they can utilize, right, in the national interest, national security. It's a broad term. And if you utilize them, you're not giving it back. Them things been sitting there for like 5 years. So get your mechanics in there, have them fix them up, and have them make the police mobile. Police shouldn't be calling no taxis to go anywhere. That don't make no sense.
But Herb, I don't think the major problem
Can I say?
facing the you were saying, Mikey.
You heard Mikey?
I want
Like,
to say something here.
okay.
Yeah, yes, I heard. I want to say something. S- Somehow, I'm talking about resource, but I keep on saying to myself, why can't the people? And I say that, not just relating to the GLP government, but also the PNP crime problem that we face in
And I hearing your
Jamaica.
question
The
clear the mic.
people
You're
play a
going in and
bigger
out.
role. I'm
Mike,
saying
you may have to reload your
that the
login.
solution. You
You're
can hear me
breaking
now?
up badly and we can't hear you.
No, we're not hearing you clearly.
Can you hear me?
We
No,
hear
you're
you.
breaking up.
We hear you
We hear you in the
intermittently.
spot.
I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything different here.
Yeah, but we only hearing you intermittently. We hear pieces of your statement.
How about that? That's
Still happening.
I'm not sure what's happening then, my bro.
Where's
You
your
might-
modem located, Mike?
Just a minute. Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me?
Well,
Okay.
you have to keep
Yes.
talking.
Yeah,
Can you hear me
talk
now?
to you and then we'll-
Consistent.
yeah,
Yeah.
we are hearing you. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you. But you have to keep talking for
Okay.
us to know if
I was
hearing
saying
you
that there's a
constantly.
simple solution. Yeah. I was
You're
and
breaking up again. Breaking up, breaking up.
It's because I
You're
don't know what to
breaking
say
up.
now because
We're not hearing you.
I'm still doing what I did. I've nothing changed. Definitely some sabotage.
Is
This
that the only
Patrick and I
is this the only program you have open, Mikey?
start open. Yeah,
There's something
open.
wrong
The
here.
only software open on my computer is this one that I'm using. You know, so yeah.
You want to try go out and come back in again?
Patrick,
Yeah.
He should just reboot it. That's what he could do without
Yeah.
having to go all the way out, and see if that will change.
Yeah.
But you have to wonder if these people decided that they're going to start ruining all the podcasts against them or examining them, and they start jamming our signals, which is hard to do, but that means they have some professionals that would do it. Try again now, Mikey.
how about that? Can you hear me now?
You have to keep, yeah, we
Yeah,
hear
keep
you.
talking and we tell
Yes,
you
can you
know.
hear me now?
The idea is whether you speak. Yes, if you keep speaking, then can we
All
hear you
right. I
consistent?
was saying. All right. Let me do that then. Jamaica with, and that solution is the government putting more trust in the Jamaican people. We know our community. We know who are the mechanism that allow residents to play a much bigger role in protecting their communities, safeguarding their communities. To me, it seems like that is a simple thing because Michael Manley tried it with the Home Guard, but because of the politics, nobody didn't push it. But it seemed to me that this is the way we should be going. Is training the resident to crime should not be just
You're,
in terms of resolving this
Listen,
I
problem.
the, the thing about it is, that, I mean, even that concept which you mentioned about home guard and all of that, that was a concept for another era, right? That's not something that would be workable now, right? And part of the problem, as we say, and Herb has spoken to this, that in terms of the community policing, right? That is something that has to be mandatory, and it has to be properly worked out and implemented,
Hold on,
right, in a way that it can be effective.
The key thing to that, Pat, Last and Mikey, the key is this: no matter what kind of home guard you have, you
which
still
which
have
one
to
was
have citizen cooperation with the police, right? Even in Cuba, I went with CONCACAF under 19 to Cuba in 1970, and they had block captains who had the responsibility for entire blocks, and they had people reporting to them, right? Crime in Cuba was zero, right? A man grabbed something from a tourist, and the militia officer just tell everybody must get down in Spanish. and two
You know,
or
so
three shots, and the man went down
I'm gonna give you the information.
because they're on every block, they're on every street corner back then, right? So they didn't have an issue with crime because they know what's gonna happen. If you if and in Jamaica it's the same problem. Now what you can't stop is the ones that are crimes of passion, right? You can only train people to respect each other and train them to stop the violence against women, violence against all the LGBTQ people, and violence against within the families, because you hear the commissioner of police talking about this violence within families, right? But with the scamming, lot of scamming that started in Montego Bay, when you double cross a scammer and he put out the hit on your family members, whether it's cousins or aunts or uncles or whomever, you can't stop that. Now the police has been able to intercept some of those conversations here in the US and send word down to Jamaica, and the police went out and intercept the hitman. And this is what you have to depend on the police here in the US to intercept those conversations. And if it's in a lot of patois, they're going to have to get somebody from Jamaica to listen to it and say what's going on, right? But they have to move on it. They can't sit on the recording, right? Because this is actionable intelligence. This is direct information that hits have been ordered and the hits are going to go down. So you have to be proactive in that sense. And I know it's very difficult for the police here to do that because they're so fed up with our people and a lot of scamming and the fact that we're causing grief in the community. They don't want to do anything to help us.
Well, everything you just said there, Herb, simply saying, simply saying, it is a lack of proper organization. Because basically, the one way, the one way to move forward is with a more efficient organization, and that's not what we are seeing with the JCF. That's not what we're seeing with the JCF. I mean, that's something we've been, talking about now for over a year, right?
Yep. I see one of the listeners, Sharms Sasidiva, said, I'd rather hear facts versus opinions. What's your stance on this? I mean, what we're talking about is factual stuff. We have no community policing. We have reactionary policing, meaning they wait for a phone call and they go out. Or they might be out there reacting to drugs entering the area and trying to find out who's doing it, trying to find the stash house, raiding different places. But where's the community policing? Where's the police walking the beat anywhere around Montego Bay, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Thomas, all the hot spots? Put the police out there, walk the beat. Give them M16s and the Glock and make them walk it as a pair. You do movement and cover. You have one on one side of the road, the other one on the other side, and they're not together. They can be talking to each other, right? But the bottom line is you need to walk the beat. You need to talk to the different merchants in the area, find out who's getting shaken down. You need to just be seen in the community or reassure people that you're there, going up and down the block, right? Flood the zone. That's the only way I can see them running these guys out of town. When you have the army and the police doing it together, that's even better. And the army has had over what 1,500 also
But
trained
what
people.
about
Go ahead, I can't hear you.
manage involved in security of their community? What about that? Nobody is moving in that direction. We have the neighborhood watch in some areas, but why can't this be a national model? Securing their
I believe it is, Mikey. Believe it or
communities.
not,
Why can't the
because
government? Overall, it seems as if the government is
Mikey, what I think has changed since that time when there were neighborhood watches all over the place is that most of these communities in which the neighborhood watch used to be working, most of these communities are taken over by criminals, and you have dons running these communities. So it is at a stage now where it is at a late stage to set up some of those neighborhood watch and um, home guard system that used to be operational under the Michael Manley system. What if you try setting up all of those things now, especially the home guard? Chances are you'll get most of those people involved in that kind of thing killed before the thing is properly set up, because the 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 dons and the criminals, they they
what I'm
have
saying is, Silas,
more
what I'm really
organization in
saying
these
is this:
communities.
that
Yeah, Mikey, I'm here.
what I'm saying is that the autocratic approach is not going to work. This is where I agree with Trevor.
The,
That
the,
bring people into the process. Crime
Yeah, but
prevention cannot just be the
oh,
police.
no,
Bring
Mikey,
citizens,
Mikey, I'm going to suggest.
what is
Hold on a
what
second,
is
Pat. Mikey. I'm going to suggest
not just as informers.
type something in the private chat so that at least we can see where you're going, all right, or what you're saying, because you're breaking up so badly. That
Right.
might be the best thing. We have the chat room, but you should put it in there because you break up
Yeah.
badly each time.
I agree that it would be a good idea to get more and more citizens involved in fighting crime. But we have to be careful about the strategy. What strategy are we going to use to involve these people? Are we going to set up and make it easy for people to give information to the police without exposing themselves? Or are we going to put more and more people on the front line and in confrontation with criminals and exposed to criminal action? That's the kind of thing we have to think about at this time. In the 70s, when there were working community organizations, community councils, citizens associations, youth clubs, all of those things. It was easy, and the communities were more organized, right? And people had a bigger interest in and care, the youths especially, had a bigger interest and care about their communities. It wasn't about lotto scamming and 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 um, and shaking down companies, right? There was a lot more community interest. So it was easier to find people who would work in the community upfront, and everybody know that these people are looking out for the safety of the community, and value that. Nowadays, nobody values, well, most of the people in these communities controlled by the Dons, they don't value anybody looking out for the community interests. What they value is people looking out for criminal interests, you know, and all of that thing. So it's a whole different ball game now. I think what is happening that is making crime fighting difficult is that there's a lot of confusion in the leadership of the country, right, and in the leadership of the police force, and there's no real coherent policy, to direct it out against the criminals. In August of this year, when there was this mass murder in Gregory Park, Andrew Holness came out and
Into the discussion.
suggests that the government is looking at legislation to take preemptive action against criminals, right? They also recently amended the Firearms Act to have bigger penalties for firearm offenders. 2 days ago, when these kids were killed in Montego Bay, Andrew Holness is again saying that they are looking at legislation to increase penalties for firearm offenses. All of these things sending mixed messages and confusion to members of the community and to the police force. I mean, it's ridiculous. What is the strategy that the government and the police commissioner is committed to fight crime? This is what people need to be certain of, and nobody in this country is certain of what is the real strategy to fight crime. There's so many messages being sent.
To your point, last, what we
So
keep
Radigan,
coming up with.
I want
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Oh, loud and clear. All right. All right. Blessings, everybody.
yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Radio in the background.
What was that?
There's some recording in the background. I don't know if it's yours.
There's a radio in the background.
My background, there's no radio on here.
Oh, it's gone. It's gone.
Okay.
Did you finish your comments, Pat?
No, what I was saying is that to Lass's point, what we keep saying is that basically what it amounts to is that the government is redundant with their ideas, right? I mean, all that keeps happening is that whenever a situation occurs, the prime minister come out, make certain statements and all of that, and talk about doing certain things and all of that. But still, the bottom line is that nothing is done, right? With crime and violence in Jamaica right now, right? It has reached such a sophisticated level of organization that what it requires is clearly, right, a more organized, a more detailed approach. Not just phrases and not just statements being made, right? But addressing the situation in a more organized way than what we are experiencing, right, from the criminal side, right? Because unless you do that, there's no way you're gonna get on top of the situation, right? To call a state of emergency from time to time, to talk about increasing the numbers of the police force, right? To not resolve payment issues with police officers and all of that. What can we expect? We can't really expect anything to really happen, right? Not addressing the matter of equipment, right? Not addressing the matter of proper training to actually deal with what we are facing, right? It's not gonna get us anywhere, right? This is just the government throwing stuff out there, right? Which is not in any way, right, benefiting us, right, or benefiting the general public, right? The government is really right at a point where they really need to just step aside. We need new approach. We need something new, completely new, right, in order to address what's going on.
And we
Right?
need a
Otherwise,
new
the situation is
commissioner
just
of
gonna worsen.
police. We also need a new
Ratigan.
commissioner of police. How can you have a commissioner of police under which no progress in policing is coming forward consistently, and the guy sits there? I mean, somebody needs to, in the government, needs to be saying, I mean, we need to try something new. I mean, look at any one of these football teams, NBA teams. When these coaches don't perform, right? Or even if the coach is performing and they're losing matches, somebody steps in and gets rid of these people. It can't be life as usual for the commissioner of police if there's no progress under his watch. We need to seriously look at getting a new commissioner in place and a new high command in place, shaking up the high command to get some new ideas and some new strategies for policing. I mean, it can't be business as usual. Nothing is happening under these guys.
Well, lads, the key thing is this.
Ratigan.
The police commissioner is not the one where the rubber meets the road. So while we can bash him, what about the intermediate leadership that's out there that has the police training, that has had developmental training over the decades, and they know better. They know how better yet to guide the people when it comes to community policing. What do you do about them? Right? They should be the ones forcing the police commissioner to come out and walk the beat with them and see what community policing is all about. But are they doing it? The man is sitting up in his office.
The thing is, Herb, he's the leader. He's the one in charge. So that's where the buck stops. You should be the one leading in terms of the ideas.
We have gotten reports before that they have their own meeting without him present and circumvent him. So maybe they need to do more of that and get some results. Where's the Ratty?
Again, good evening to everyone. Panelists, distinguished host, and listeners, viewers. I mean, I've given up on these people. I've given up on them, frankly speaking. They've proven time and time again that they're ineffective, and they really don't have any idea of what they're doing. If the idea of fighting crime is to have a state of emergency proclaimed, and then you look at what they're doing. They're just standing on the street corner, just standing. And as we know, crime radiates. When you saturate an area, the criminals and criminal activity move. They spread out to other areas. And we're seeing it just today. There was two people shot dead in some part of Kingston. And we're just talking about the shootings that have been reported. So it's distressing, but it's reality. They have no idea what they're doing, and they're very, very arrogant. They've condemned themselves to this line of thinking that they can bulldoze their way out of crime through states of emergency and legislation. because there's the community policing that the textbook traditional police community policing, that's not happening in Jamaica. It's not happening. And then you look at all the other problems that the JCF is beset by, including problems affecting the Federation. It's one of those things where you just kind of left soap your hands in the air and just say, look, they don't want any help. And as far as they're concerned, they have everything under control. And you just leave them. All we can do is just keep informing the people. And hopefully at some point, the people do the right thing. Because what's going on now is the wrong thing. So that's all I have to say about that.
So you keep the police commissioner
Gentlemen,
in place?
can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to be suffering for a while yet until they can get that man to realize that he has a learning curve and that he's not getting the full gist of what he's supposed to be doing. Right? He's not getting his leadership team to be more cohesive and to demand more of the police officers policing the communities. You should not be sitting up in the stations waiting for stuff to happen. They should all be proactive. And
But you see, Herb,
Yeah.
from my perspective, it's more than just him. It's the whole system.
that's
The
true.
whole system is just messed up, and they keep tinkering with the system around the edges instead of just doing a complete reformation. And therein lies the problem, because part of it is personnel, part of it is structural, and they have a 1870s construct trying to deal with a 21st century crime problem, and it just won't work. Just won't work. Not to mention, the corruption and the other issues impacting policing in Jamaica. So I don't see it getting any better. In fact, I see it getting worse. How many more states of emergency you have to proclaim before you realize that this thing is not working? It's not working. And you come up with something that is that includes the community, something that includes all of society. And I'm not talking about the consensus monitoring on crime, that piece of paper where people signed on and all that stuff, because that hasn't worked either. That hasn't worked. I wouldn't call it a complete failure, but the goals were reasonable, and somehow at this point, based on the inability to meet them, now it looks like it was just an ambitious project. That's what it looks like right now. It was just ambitious. So I mean, I'm looking at everything that they've tried, and I can't see anything that has reaped sustainable success. They may have some success here, like for example, with the state of emergency. They go into an area, and then the crime issue, or the crime will drop. But then if you look elsewhere, you see where the crime has increased. And so what's the point of that? And as soon as they move out, the criminals move back in. Because remember, the plan to prevent criminals from moving back in, that's called Zozo, which is an SOE on steroids. Steroids being the social services aspect of it, where they said, okay, we're going to clear hold. Well, Herb knows what I'm talking about because he was the one who briefed them on this. But clear, hold, and build. We're going to clear it of the bad people. We're going to hold it from them coming back, and we're going to build so that they don't have to come. They won't come back. Well, that costs money, because now you're talking about social programs, and they don't have the money to do it. Or better yet, they're not spending the money to do it, because they claim that they had the money last year and that they were spending the money, but it's not being spent properly. So and then they won't listen. They won't engage people with far greater experience than they could ever imagine in this lifetime. They won't engage you. And again, it goes back to at least one of the aspects, arrogance. Them just arrogant. Them just feel like, okay, we don't need no help. And then you start pile on the other issues, the corruption, the influence, all of these things. Because of course they have one, we said, there's only one set of laws in Jamaica, but it's the way it's applied in two different ways. It's the same law, but it's applied in two different ways. One where they have discretion to do certain things, and the other one where they just feel compelled to do it. So if you look at how the police below halfway tree and how the police above halfway tree, the difference is glaring. So the way I see it, like you say, all the things you're talking about, getting rid of him, getting rid of the system. Yeah, we need to do all of that before we can ever make an appreciable change in the crime problem in Jamaica. Because another thing is the country's awash with weapons. Everywhere you turn, you see people. I mean, look at the crimes being committed and the type of weaponry. You don't see no Saturday night special anymore, or 38, you don't see that. It's semi-automatic and automatic. So high capacity magazines. So it's only going to get worse. And then this idea of putting in a state of emergency just before the Christmas season. You know why? Because they're looking at this and they realize, they should have realized a long time ago, they have no control, no grip on the crime problem. People are shooting people like birds, and there's nothing they can do about it. Absolutely nothing. And when they tell you that, certain types of crime we can't do anything about. If they had a robust intelligence capability, some of the things that they're saying that they can't do, they'll realize that they can't do it, but they don't have it. And then when people like Herb say, look, hey, I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I have the know-how, I have the contacts, and I'm willing. Then they said, no, just stay to the side. We really don't need it. We have this covered. We can do it. And that's where we are. Juanita, I'm gone to eat.
No, I've been trying to log in and be able to speak in a consistent basis, but it's not working.
But him tell me, say me don't get a new system, so I don't know.
You may have got,
He never get a new system. Basically what he did was forget hardwired. And I told him that, he have to do a deeper dive than that in order to really get to the problem. You see, it is kind of like what we're talking about. How you're gonna get the results you desire is gonna be based on the work that you put in.
Sure.
If you're not putting in the kind of work that you need to put in to address the situation, there's no way it will happen. It's like all of what you said just now, Will, is basically saying that if the principle is flawed, then don't expect anything to work. Right? And that's what's happening. A corrupt government, right? A government which only simply throw ideas out there, right? And keep talking the talk, but not walking the walk. Right? So it reflects itself from the top. So what can you expect? Right? There's nothing that can come good of this, because as we clearly indicate, and we keep saying this over and over, right? The criminal situation that you're looking at is one that is way more organized, way more sophisticated than the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, right? This is something which is not running short on anything, right? They're not running short on weapons. They're not running short on ammunition. They're not running short on the manpower, right? They're not running short on recruiting manpower. They're not running short on spending their money to really, get on top of the situation that they want to be on top of, right? So the only way to approach it is to clearly, right, look at what you're facing, right, and be a step ahead of them. That's where you begin. You can't begin behind them. You have to begin ahead of them, right? In terms of your organization, right? And right now, this government is nowhere when it comes to proper organization, right? Not to mention to be on top of a situation which is running rampant, right, across the country.
Oh, well, on there. Oh, hold on. I say in the chat. I don't even comment on negativity in the chat. But I say this gentleman here, Everton Jarrett, in the chat. I'll start up him things. Everton, and let me just say one thing to you. I don't know who you are, but let me make it abundantly clear to you that I'm in a unique position because PNP send me a labor right send me a PNP, and UIC say come join us, and that's a very lovely position for me to be in. So I just want you to understand that my only purpose at this point in life, as far as Jamaica is concerned, and what I'm doing, is to hold the government accountable. And there's only one government at a time. And should PNP become the government after the next election, I will hold them accountable as well. So I don't care about party, and I don't care about color. All I care about is just policy and people. As long as you can take care of your people, you won't hear from me. As long as you can take care of your people, but as long as you're not doing that, then that's fine. And if you want to have a discussion, and I shouldn't even recognize you, but I'm going to recognize you because I assume you're a Jamaican and I care about you. I care about each and every Jamaican. If you want to have a discussion, then call the program and let's have a discussion. But to steer you and lob grenade over the fence and then run, that's not going to solve the problem, because Rattigan is not the problem, because Rattigan not kill nobody at Jamaica. If you go back and you look right now at the murder rate, I want you to point out how many people down there I kill. I don't kill anybody down there. All we're trying to do is come up with solutions as to how to reduce the level of crime in Jamaica and make Jamaica a safe place for people to live. Not only people living there, but people who would like to return. That's all. But you come up with this thing, and I'm not gonna curse you. All I'm saying to you is that engage us. Just give us a call, and then we can talk. We can share ideas. We don't have to, we don't have to be as insolent and rude and carry on and things like that as you are going. Act like an adult, man. Just give us a call and let's talk, because you know what? You may have some good points that you might educate me, and you might have me change some of my views, and I would welcome that, or I might be able to do some of that to you or for you. So you can continue talking in the chat, but I think Mr. Nita would welcome a phone call from you if you want to call and talk to the panel, because we love doing that. We love to engage our people, and we love to exchange ideas, because only through that exchange and that engagement will we be able to see a brighter day for Jamaica, the place that we all love. No, Nita, I suspect you never watched your program yesterday, but I know Patrick watched your program, and I don't know if Last watched your program.
Yeah, man, I saw it. Yeah, man.
Yeah, but
I didn't watch it live, but I spent all night.
Oh,
I spent all night watching it, brother.
yeah, we'll get.
It was a good program.
Can you
A
hear
very
me?
good program.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah,
we're hearing you now.
You sound much better, Mikey.
But you're gone again.
Okay.
The program
We
was
shift
good
to
from start to finish.
the
Great
Rattigan
program.
case.
All the guests,
Can we shift
everybody
to
did well. And
What's the
and
program I'm talking about?
ISAT did a very good presentation,
With
even though I would engage him on it, right? Because it seemed a bit idealistic, right? But I would engage him on it. But
I was supposed to call. Oh,
it was a good
Patrick,
program.
sorry, I was supposed to call him and have him appear today. I forgot. Yeah.
So
Where's
Rattigan,
Anita?
where we go from here? Where you go from here?
Oh, I'm go on my bed. What do you mean? I'm go from here?
I think him really talking about.
No, I know.
Yeah.
No. I'm just teasing. No. Here's what happened.
Well,
We went through the judge's opinion. We went through we went through the judge's opinion yesterday, and it's 19 pages. And I said to people, listen, if you believe in transparency and democracy and good governance,
Can you
right?
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Going
yeah.
through
We're
a
not
thought.
hearing you clearly. That's still
Hello?
we're still having that problem. We
Mic
hear you
check.
intermittently. We hear
Radigan
you
is off.
sometime and we don't hear a full statement.
Radigan is not off. You are off, Mikey.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just showed me that
Everybody else is
the
here
connection
except
from
you.
my side is very.
Yeah, but something is wrong because at the beginning of the program you were okay, and then after that, it's just the problem is just on your part. Everybody else is fine.
Something. Yeah.
So
Look like we are under some attacks. So
Yeah, don't walk on the tax.
Radigan,
Don't walk on the tax.
you and I
No, but here's what I was
I
saying.
don't know what's that.
Here's what I was saying. I was
But
saying that if you
we are
believe,
we are
if you believe in good
no, I
governance, if
prefer
you believe in
walk on
democracy,
eggshell.
if you believe in good governance, if you believe in democracy, if you believe in transparency, right? If you believe in justice, the one thing you must do is you must respect the judge's opinion, is ruling. You have to respect it because that is the system. You don't have to agree with it. You can respectfully disagree with it, but you have to respect it because that's the system. And the system says, look, a judge going to render an opinion, but we know that judges make mistakes because judges are people and we all make mistakes. So that's why we have a process called appeals. So you appeal. So the
I
thing for me,
sincerely hope that the judge is making a mistake, Radigan, because especially one clause in the judge's response really bothered me. I think it was the point of 92 on the on his response that spoke about, I mean, almost saying there's very little any of us can do when it comes to taking action against these representatives when it comes to issues of corruption and all of those things. I mean, if it don't directly affect us, or if we don't directly have an interest in the matter. I mean, that sounds like you have to climb over a mountain to bring our leadership and our politicians and public officers to book. That is astounding. It's demoralizing to even think about it. And after I watched the program, it's one of the things that concerned me all through the night. I kept thinking about it. I mean, because if this is true, if the judge is right, I mean, we definitely would understand and would have to accept why these public officials are so involved in corruption, because they know there's very little that we can do. I mean, so I sincerely hope that the judge is wrong and made a very big mistake. That's astounding.
yeah, he said he said that if you're living in Jamaica or even if you're living outside of Jamaica, unless you can prove that you're directly affected by what the politician did, then you have no standing. And so the question is, how do you deal with corruption then? We say if you see something, say something. And he's saying if you see it and it doesn't affect you, then keep your mouth shut. Or him say you can go to the Integrity Commission or the tax administrator or whatever, right? And what's also interesting is that he said, well, Mr. Rattigan, what you're asking me to do is outside the province of the court. You're asking me to make a decision, and that kind of decision would have to be based upon an investigation conducted by somebody like the Integrity Commission. And then right after that, he turned around and said, and I find that she committed no breach. I would say, well, where's the investigation?
But here's the bigger thing to me, right? And this is the big flaw in what he's saying. right? If he's saying that, okay, if you need to take action, right, then, take action, right? Because after him say all of that about if it do affect you, right, then, there's no basis for you to bring the action, right? But then if you need to take action, you go to the Integrity Commission. You also can go to the court, which is precisely what you have done, right?
There's
So
no prohibition against that.
So what can he be saying? What is he really saying? It doesn't make sense. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense.
There is no prohibition against a citizen. Let me emphasize the word citizen.
Yeah.
Because you can be a Jamaican citizen living outside of Jamaica unless you renounce. And renouncing your Jamaican citizenship is, as we heard from yesterday from Ambassador Samba, it's a process. You just don't get up and say, I'm renouncing. You have to file paperwork. And the paperwork has to go through the embassy, then it has to go through the Ministry of National Security, and a decision is made. And so, I have not renounced my Jamaican citizenship. Like just last night, somebody said, "Oh, we heard that you're not a real Jamaican because you joined the FBI and you gave up your Jamaican citizenship." And I had to educate the person and say, "Listen, there are two sides to it. America does not recognize dual citizenship. Jamaica does. So Jamaica will give me a Jamaican passport. America doesn't recognize dual citizenship, but it recognizes that Jamaica does. So it says, look, you can be a citizen of America and you can also be a citizen of Jamaica, but we won't recognize you as a Jamaican citizen, right? But if Jamaica wants to recognize you because that's Jamaican law. If Jamaica wants to recognize you as a citizen, then that's fine. It's just like Cuba. Cuba basically says if you were born a Cuban, you can't even renounce being a Cuban. You're Cuban until the day you die, right? So that question about whether or not it's nonsensical, right?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing too. Technically, that point you make about Cuba is really the one that stands anywhere, because even if you're a U.S. citizen, right, born U.S. citizen, right, and you decide, okay, you're not gonna use your American citizenship, right? Let's say you renounce it or you don't renounce, whether you renounce it or not, right? And you leave, right? And go somewhere else and decide to come back to the US. You're still a citizen. It's the same thing with Jamaica, right? There's no law that can bar you, right? Granted, it may be another matter if you're a naturalized citizen, right? But this is not the case we're talking about. We're talking about citizen by birth.
Look, Patrick, the simplest answer to that issue is it was this. If I fill out that passport form right now and I put my birth certificate and I say I want my passport, guess what? They have to, not if them feel like, they must give me my Jamaican passport because I was born in Jamaica and I have not renounced my citizenship. So them have to give me them, as them say, bone and compound for give me my passport. Just not them can. They might drag them feet, but they have to give. There's no objection. They can't raise any objection. They have to. You know how many hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who are citizens elsewhere and still are Jamaican citizens? Hundreds of thousands. So they won't take back all of them passports and they won't change it because the law doesn't provide any way for them to take it back. And right now,
Or don't renew them.
Or don't renew them. Is that what they're going to do?
Plus, there's another matter too, right? Which we have not talked about. Look in that passport itself and look at what it says, right? Look in the back of that passport and look at what it says in terms of your Jamaican citizenship, right? That's not something which can be renounced by any judge, right?
Right.
This is something which, a lot of times we don't really take the further step to investigate what it is, right? Who we are, right? And what this thing citizenship is all about. Because of course they don't teach these things in school. They don't.
But
right? That's the first thing.
Another thing, I understand last consternation at the opinion, because I read it too, and I was told by senior JLP operatives and MPs that You can't win this case. You cannot win it because if you win this is going to be a problem for the party. But be that as it may, I'm looking at it objectively. And I'm saying, how could the judge say, on one hand, that the minister who acted in a personal capacity? And 5 paragraphs later, him said, no, the minister acted in a government.
On behalf of the government, yes.
You know why? You know why they said that, though? You see, I think you have to face the reality that politics is not just restricted to the political parties. What is clear with this verdict is that the law profession is impacted by corruption. That's what's going on.
Well,
Corruption. So they find someone who can say what they want to say, what they are not willing to themselves to say.
But that don't make it realistic.
It's not realistic, but it's showing the extent to which
you
the
mentioned
corruption.
realistic earlier on, but
well, look,
you know,
When I say realistic, I mean it's time you recognize that the politician is not just the political activists, them, but people in the high courts are also involved in politics, and they are corrupt.
Look, I don't have any empirical evidence of that, and I don't have any evidence in this specific case. I don't have it. You know, we can surmise, but I won't do that, right? All I'll say is that this judge made an error in judgment, and so we're confident that it will be reversed on appeal. Now, I tell you this, I was personally offended by something he did in his analysis. His statement saying that not a line, not a letter, not a 50 cents. Yeah, where he used Buju's song, Deportees, right? I was personally offended by that because he could have used any song. In fact, he didn't even have to use a song. He could have simply just wrote out and said, well, Mr. Rattigan, you don't represent anyone in the diaspora. But he said, nobody in the diaspora, give me not a line, not a letter, not a 50-cent stamp. And that song is about deportees, right? Who turn them back on Jamaica and them don't send them no remittances, anything like that. And then them get deported. All right? And Buju said, you're rich.
No. But here's the thing. That's not even what the song say either. But we're not going to debate the song. But because that song was not... for him to use that was totally out the book. And that's part of the reason to, again, why I'm saying that I'm not going to be as kind as you are, Ratty, right, in addressing the situation. I'm going to call it the way it is. If I have a job to do and I do the job in a flawed way, I'm going to be called on it. I'm going to be called on the job, right? I'm going to be called on doing a poor job. This judge has no business being on that bench, right? With the kind of work that he just did on this matter. He did not address the case that was brought before him, right? He did not address that. What he addressed was, right, the what you call it, the petition raised by the defendant, right, in the case. That's what him do. That's all he did, right? And render an opinion on it, right? It wasn't even a proper judgment. And that's why it is so flawed that it can go nowhere, right? Because clearly it begs for an appeal. In fact, it demands an appeal, right?
That line.
There's no way it's gonna go anywhere other than to be reversed, right? An appeal. I'll kick right back down to him.
I also found that line about Buju thing very offensive. You know, it suggests bias and prejudice right off the bat. I mean, it just inappropriate, totally inappropriate. I mean, it's like a slight against the diaspora. You know, it's like saying, I mean, you guys, you know, we don't have no business in a Jamaica normally, but when certain things go on and you just run off on the mouth, you know, that's what it suggests, and the bias is clear. I mean, it's offensive to me. I find it very, very offensive. I couldn't see how the judge could really reach for that line, that particular line, not any other line in the song, but that that particular line, you know, where bourgeois say, boy, uno neglect the country, uno run where no business with the country. But now, you know, we don't want the country, the country to take on a position. That kind of attitude, I mean, it was too offensive to me.
But
Well,
but
and
that
then,
but that attitude is widespread in Jamaica when it comes to
No, but we're
you
talking
see a
about the judiciary. We're
But,
no
talking
we're not,
about
but we're not
Mikey,
talking about the song. The issue
we're
is not
talking
about the
about the
song.
yeah.
judiciary. I
Well,
mean,
allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. I'm saying that that song is in the popular culture. That line is in the popular culture.
But
I
this
think
case
what
is not about the song.
no. The case is not about the song. So they're gonna draw on anything to one undermine Rattigan claimer. They're gonna do all of that. My concern is not that. My concern is what do we do now? Yes, we're gonna file the appeal, right? But it has to must be more than the appeal. The Jamaican people at home and abroad need to know about this. They need to become sensitized to the whole thing because this thing is not just about us, It's about every Jamaican. It's not just about Rattigan. The
But
ruling.
exactly, and that's exactly what was being done yesterday on the program, and that's what's being done here now too, right? That's the whole point about it. There's nothing beyond that we can do, right? But really bring the issue, right,
I,
front
I,
and
I,
center in our discussion, which is what we're doing.
I think the
Okay.
verdict. I think the verdict is a test of the stamina. You know, if we have the stamina to still defend this thing. You know, I think that's a test in this verdict. I mean, sometimes these people they throw a button in your spokes to see if them
Of
stopping you this time going to mean that they stop you for all time. You don't come back again. You know, so I mean,
To
if
that point, to last, to that very point you just mentioned here now. That is so key because this is what it says clearly. It says clearly that what Rattigan did in bringing that lawsuit, right? It is showing you that this thing can be done. These actions can be taken. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when you come upon situations like what he has encountered, right, which is not a personal situation because it is one that affects all Jamaicans, right? Particularly if you're a concerned Jamaican, right? It affects all of us. And once we come upon this situation where we meet a judge who is likely corrupt or not, right? Then we have the gumption to deal with him too. That is what this is saying, right? That is precisely to the point you just made.
I
Right?
want
So
to
it's not over.
I want to remind you guys that in the 1920s, Marcus Garvey carried a case before the RM court, and the corrupt judge threw it out, and Marcus called him corrupt, called the judge corrupt, and then
lock him up,
they lock him up. They lock up Marcus Garvey because he called the judge corrupt. And corruption within the courts is not just today our Rattigan case. It's a long time practice. Long time practice. I remember when I was active in Jamaica, there was a spot near to Musgrave Road where activists, lawyers, and judge would meet at this spot, this bar, and case will be resolved there at the bar. You understand me? Not the regular bar, not the rum bar. Case would be resolved. And it was known. If you want to find certain judge, that's where you go to find them. Certain DPP, that's where you go to find them. Because the politician, all of these guys, they get together and drink. They get together and drink and do their stuff. So my question now is what more can we do? I know it's going to take some money, to carry the thing through. And that's probably one thing we should be looking at into how do we mobilize the resource for this fight at the appeal court and the Privy Council. That's going to take resource. It's going to take resource.
Well,
One Jamaica Legal Defense Fund.
right. And somebody made a lady from, I think it's from New York, the caller from New York. She suggested a good idea. She said, listen, find out how much it's gonna cost, and then you come to us and say, I'm gonna need this to move forward with the
Good.
thing. And I think that's a good idea.
Good
So
idea.
yeah, so I'm already talking to the lawyers and I'm telling them, just give me a ballpark figure so then I can come and talk. Because again, like you said, this case is way bigger than me, right?
It opened the door. You don't realize what you did. You opened the door.
But
like I said, this that's far-reaching effects. Not
Yeah.
only in Jamaica, but the diaspora.
Yeah.
Because the judge actually said in writing, he said, if you live in Jamaica or live abroad, if you're not personally affected by what the politician is doing, then you have no case.
You don't have no claim, no say.
Yeah.
But again, I want to say something directly to your point where you raised, Mikey, because that is another key point, right? When you talk about traditionally what has happened, right? And you know, about this bar that they will meet to resolve issues, right, in their own way, which has nothing to do with the law, right?
Nothing.
And do with proper procedure. I'm no stranger to them kind of situation. I know that, right? I know that happens. It happens both formally and informally, right? And there is not the only place it happens. It happens here too, right? I've taken on them situations and beat them, right? You have to be prepared to go the extra mile, right, in dealing with it. Like I say, if you meet up on a judge where either inefficient or corrupt, right, you're going to have to deal with him too.
I also couldn't understand Rattigan. When I don't remember what point in the summing up where the judge said that, as if to say he has no jurisdiction to deal with matters like these. I couldn't understand.
That's a good point.
What he was saying. He has no jurisdiction to deal with those kind of matters. As if to say him can't deal with corruption matters in Jamaica.
That's a good point, because here's one of the things he said along those lines. He said that if I wanted to bring the action, I should go to, and I've mentioned it already, go to
integrity.
He's saying, look, this is not the place to resolve this. You need to go over there and file a complaint and then let them conduct the investigation and pass judgment on her. And then in the next breath, the man said, but I'm going to pass judgment on her now. She didn't commit any breach. I said, but hold on. You just said the people them supposed to do it. Them don't cross the street. Them don't have integrity commission. So how you get to that point? Oh, and you know what? If you notice, nowhere in his opinion, his 19-page opinion, I think it's 19 pages, did he address the issue of the gift and who received the gift. He never once addressed it.
No, they don't. Let me just say something to you. In the 1980s, a group of us led a demonstration and blocked the main road in St. Anne's Bay. Okay? I and two other brothers led that demonstration. We were arrested, taken to the St. Anne's Bay lockup. Within 4 hours at the station, a certain individual came to the station, got us out, and carried us to Ucherius to meet with Judge Raymond Alexander. I call his name because he's no longer around. And that judgment turned to us and said, don't worry, man. All you do is make sure you put in an appearance on Monday and then you walk. As simple as that. You know, corruption affects all facets of Jamaica. And that is something which is going to be a hell of a struggle
So,
Not hearing
Mikey,
you, Radical.
Mikey, let me say this. When you have that occurring the way it has, this is one of the reasons why we're putting the pressure on the judiciary to start correcting things. Because if the judiciary is corrupt, it's going to show up. And judges like this one, Dale, whatever his name is, it will show up with him. I don't know, Ratty. Maybe Ratty can tell me why the female judge that this case started out with, why wasn't she the one that returned the verdict? Why she took herself out of the picture and make some novice who was acting make a decision?
Because she laid the basis before. She said it, you know. She was the one who said, I see problem with this case standing. So she laid the basis for someone to come after and just...
That's all she was seeing. Why didn't she follow through and make a decision? Right?
Yeah. And what they say is that first of all, let me explain to people what the action was about. Because some people say when me appeal win, if me get money and all this. You have two types. Well, the two basic actions you have in court in Jamaica. One of them is a judicial review, where now you're asking the judge, you're asking a court to look at your complaint that you have against somebody and verify it. Say, okay, this meets the legal standards, and then you can go forward. And then the judge will sign off on that, basically. And then you file your action. So it's a two-step process. The one I file is called an administrative declaration, which is just to say, judge, look at the facts, look at the law, and just tell me if the minister should have filed, if she and if she didn't file, just tell me that. I wasn't asking him to send her to prison, to fine her, no penalty whatsoever on her part. The judicial review is different.
Nothing to do with money.
Nothing to do with money or punishment. The judicial review is different. Judicial review, you're asking the judge to levy some kind of or impose some kind of punishment on somebody. You're saying fine them, lock them up, whatever. That's not what I asked for. I simply asked him to say, look at the facts and just tell me if, based on the law, she should have filed. And
which he totally ignored.
He ignored it. Right? He completely ignored it.
Which is why I keep saying he didn't do the job that he was supposed to do, that he was put there to do. Him choose to address something completely different. Right?
Yeah,
and he should not opinion on it.
And that's why people...
Gentlemen, Maxine just joined us. Welcome, Maxine.
Hi, welcome.
We're dissecting Rattigan case.
Maxine.
Yeah.
My case.
All right, back to the Rattigan.
That's we need to stop saying that because it's not a Rattigan case.
Yeah, because if you go back, and by the way, people, if you go to the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation.org, if you go to the website, the judge's opinion is there. Go to OJLDF.org, and the opinion is there, so you can see it for yourself. So we're not making up anything. But one of the first things you'll notice when you look at the opinion is that you'll see where it says Rattigan is bringing this action on behalf of whom? First, himself. Second, people in the diaspora. And third, people in Jamaica. So this action is for everybody. Everybody. So everybody's affected by that, because what the judge said, and I hate to repeat it, but I need to. The judge said that, Mr. Rattigan, you and your band of Confederates, the people in Jamaica and the people in the diaspora, if you're not directly affected by something that a politician did, you not have no standing to bring that case. No standing. So the question then is, well, let's talk about something called the corruption index. We shouldn't talk about that. Let's talk about the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council. That doesn't give us standing. Let's talk about Vision 2030. That doesn't give us standing. Let's talk about citizenship. That doesn't give us. Let's talk about the Constitution. They don't give us standing. The judge completely ignored all of that, right? And just said, look, listen, you don't have you and the rest of us don't have no standing. So if a politician did something that you're not directly affected by, you can't bring an action. That's what he's saying, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because you know why? Because what the politician is doing is against public interest. It's against public interest, and you are a part of the Jamaican public, whether you live in Jamaica or outside of Jamaica. You are, and therein lies your standing. That's your interest because you want to make sure that your country is run efficiently and as best as possible, corruption free. That's what you want. That's what we all want.
And also
Let me ask you something. Hold on,
extending your point, right? No, just extending that point. It's not just your personal interest. It's a collective interest, and that's why it's not personal.
But let me ask you
Right.
something, Ramtigan. Let me ask you something. Have you reached out to members in the local legal community about getting on board or with this thing?
Yes.
And what the reaction you're getting?
Positive.
Okay.
In
Because
fact, if you recall, the day, and I think I said it to you, Michael, the day after the verdict, I
Yeah,
think it was on
I saw-
Thursday.
yeah, I
Yeah,
saw something,
you have
yeah.
some, you have a couple well-respected lawyers in
Yeah.
Jamaica who said we have heartburn over this decision. This decision is not sitting well with us. And then the day after that, you have a gentleman who's well known in Jamaica, an attorney, who
Yeah.
said, "Look," he said, "I'm making it clear. Kameen is a friend of mine, right? But he said, but this one does not sit well with me. This one is problematic for me, right? And I mean, even a baby could read. If a baby who can read, any child who can read, we understand. If they go to paragraph, I think it's 84 and 92, and they compare them or somewhere, one in the 80s, one in the 90s, they'll say, well, wait a minute, so how come the judge over here, the judge said she is the one that's responsible, and then over the other is the government responsible? Them say, in the same opinion, them saying, no, something is not. Oh, and then the clincher is that I played a video yesterday where the Minister of Information, Robert Morgan, he himself, he said, listen, Kamina Johnson was the principal for Fin Partners, and the principal is the beneficiary. And she come and write a statement and say, I didn't benefit. I didn't get any gift.
Yeah.
The government distanced itself from that situation. He did another interview where he said that's a private contract between corporate Jamaica and Fin Partners, and the government has nothing to do with that. So the government is distancing itself. And like what the judge said in his opinion, that therefore, because the government put her up and she would be representing the government, which is not true. She wouldn't be representing any government because she would have to resign from the government to get that position, right?
And she wasn't running as a minister of foreign affairs.
Correct. And so he said, therefore he said the money would have gone to the government. You never look at the documents. No money went to the government. The money went from Fin Partners, from corporate Jamaica to Fin Partners. And what's interesting is, and Robert Morgan said this, everything I'm telling the public is it's not something I'm making up. I have documentary evidence for this.
Not secret.
Yeah, it's not secret. Robert Morgan, he said on Nationwide Radio that corporate Jamaica approached the government and said, we would like to support her. And he said the government said we would be very happy for the support. Now, what did not happen, they didn't give the government the money. Because if it's a government gift, the money would have gone through the cabinet. Oh, and another thing, it says that before the government can accept a gift like that, it has to pass through the cabinet. So it would go through the cabinet to the Ministry of Finance into the consolidated fund. And then it would come out on the other end and go to Fin Partners. That's how you give a gift to the government. So no gift was given to the government. No gift was given to the government. The money was paid to Fin Partners, who provided that gift of services to her. I don't know how the judge couldn't say that.
Can we bring Maxine into the conversation? Maxine, you're familiar with what's happening here, right?
Yes.
Let's hear your view. No? Go ahead.
I was interested because I think it's a beginning of a process of the diaspora engaging practically the system of Jamaica, different from, having statements and public relations. I was interested in actually, the legal framework. Is the judge? I just wanted to confirm the judge that made this opinion. Is it Judge Staple?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So because I saw where, for example, he was very aggressive in making a statement that the judiciary is quite separate, pushing back against the government. I think they had invited him, I think Floyd, Minister of Agriculture, to some meeting with some farmers, not him, but the judiciary, to some meeting with some farmers around predial larceny, right? And both him and Judge Sykes were very outright in pushing to say that, the government cannot summon the judiciary into a space like that, to try to effect change. So when I saw that he was the one that was writing the opinion, I was very keen on, what his observations was, but I was more looking at what it meant that the diaspora could intervene in the running, of the space outside of, having a vote, because what the narrative has been is that, how can Jamaica bring the diaspora into the governance, but it was more through voting, can the diaspora vote in elections, etc. So I was keen. I know that this is our first, or you can tell me if this is the first time that the diaspora has challenged activities, in the government, and what that means for the future.
Yeah, I'm being told that it's a case of first impression, that they've never seen anything like this in Jamaica, where somebody from living in the diaspora challenged government action on behalf of everyone. I didn't do it only on behalf of myself. And Rosemary in the chat, she makes an interesting point. She's saying that, could it be that the judge just didn't want to ruffle any feathers, so he just did whatever he could do and then just passed the buck on, knowing that it's going to be overruled at the appellate level. But nobody now in Jamaica can blame him. Nobody in the power structure can say, well, you rule against the minister. I mean, that's a thought. That's a thought. But again, I don't have any empirical evidence that any of this is going on, except to say, well, the decision itself is worrisome, and why would a judge put his reputation on the line for something like, knowing that this thing just doesn't add up? It does not add up, And yesterday I heard from a very prominent lawyer who said, listen, there's the court of appeal in Jamaica, and barring that, they said that this issue is a very, very significant issue. The issue of standing. Who has standing to sue in a court in Jamaica? Yeah. And he said this issue is ripe for the Privy Council to make a decision, so that once and for all we know who has standing, and we don't have to listen to somebody's surmising that are doing it on a willy-nilly basis. You have standing now, but you don't have standing tomorrow, or
No, listen, gentlemen. If that be the case, I'd be willing to stake a bet that if it goes that far, that the result is gonna surprise you. Because you know what I think the result would be? That not only a Jamaican can bring the action, but a foreigner can bring the action.
Patrick? If you didn't see the mother belly one more day, that'd be a profit.
Hey, Patrick, I would be a lot more precise, Patrick. I would say any member of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Because we all come under the good king, right? So any member of the Commonwealth should be able to bring this action to clear up. You have lies, you have damn lies, and you have goddamn lies. And so what we're seeing here is this stuff play out in Jamaica.
Yeah.
We chose the judiciary to make our stand, right? We said you've got the legislature and the executive that are married to each other. They're in bed together. And if you go against your party's standing, you get kicked out of the party. The only other way you get kicked out of the party is to beat up on a woman. And we've seen that happen. So you can't tell me that the party has any kind of political standard to meet the values of the diaspora. Maybe we have a value system that's well above them in Jamaica. And that's what they can't stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Let
Yeah.
me ask you this. Let me ask this question. What do we know about this gentleman, this judge?
I don't think we need to go there, Mikey.
Yeah, I don't think that's even important. I think the key point is
Why not? Why not?
following up on what Irv
No,
just
no, no,
mentioned.
no, no.
Right?
Hold up,
No,
Bridget.
one
Hold up,
second.
hold up.
Just allow me to
No,
finish.
let me finish.
Allow me to finish the point. No, allow me to finish the point, please. Right? I think the biggest lesson for us to draw from all of this is, right, for people to understand that when we come here, right, on these platforms, right, on Rattigan show and this show, right, and all the other platforms that we go on, we're not playing around. We're not saying these things because we're trying to make a name or anything like that. This is really about our real concern, right, for cleaning up things in Jamaica because it affects us, right? So this is not a plaything. This is something which, when Rattigan put together the whole idea of suing, right, and did the filing, right, like I said, it wasn't a personal thing, and we need to stop making that error of seeing it in any personal way, right? Because this is why we are here. This is why we spend time here doing what we do.
Can I
Right?
finish now?
Yes.
What do we know about this gentleman, this judge? I know people might be uncomfortable, but sometimes when you go into people's background, you get an understanding as to why they do certain things. So, it come across just from reading the thing on the surface, what Ratgan shared with us, it come across as this man is a political activist or something about this man. He's tied to the Labour Party or whatever. That's just my suspicion. I'm not sure. Maxine shaking her head. Let me.
What if he is?
No, I don't. What I'm saying is, for whatever reason, I did review that part. That's how I could make a statement about the pushback against the Minister of Agriculture. It was a very strident pushback.
Okay.
That the judiciary is not at the behest of the political players, right? Again, what popped in my mind was also the situation between the Privy Council and the CCJ. You understand, the Caribbean Court of Justice.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that, one of the pushbacks is that the Caribbean, our space is not, I think,
Large enough.
it's not even large enough, but the separation between the political influence and the judicial is not as separate. That is why going to the Privy Council, people have that idea that you will get more justice out of that than you will get out of CCJ, But again, pointing to Staple, I'm curious also about Sykes, Judge Sykes, because since he came in as the head guy, his narrative has been very interesting to observe, how he moves, energy-wise, trying to really define, to me, the judiciary as a, as a separate force.
Yeah, but
Mikey,
here's the
Mikey,
thing, though.
one of the reasons why I said we don't
just a
have
minute,
budget.
just a minute. Maxine, you finish?
Um,
Let you finish your
I
thought.
think so. I think so because again, what I saw in the press or what I picked up from the article about the case, it seemed that because journalists pick out what they want to pick out to push. It seemed to think that Mr. Rattigan didn't have actually even there's 4 or 5 people with him, like it was him alone. That's what I got. What he's saying to me now in the actual decision, how they projected it in the press was that he was acting alone, calling the name of the diaspora and all of these people, but they weren't actually there, like a class action suit. It just had that narrative in the media that I saw. Right?
That's what I'm trying to make out with the Butcher song, which was incorrect, but that was the whole idea of using the Butcher song.
Yes, it was whatever. But anyway, I was just answering Michael's idea about Staples. I know he was just elevated to be a cuisine judge. I don't know what that means. Like
He's acting.
acting as a cuisine judge.
He's
I
an
don't know
acting
what.
judge, yeah.
So what's cuisine? I don't know what cuisine meant, but I know that it's a different type of a judge, or what?
I think if I had to define it, I might give it the wrong definition. So it's best to ask Mr. Rattigan.
The word is puny, really.
Puny, yeah, but it's spelled that way.
Yeah.
But this is a puny judge. So what does that mean, Ratty? He's puny or what?
Meaning he's a younger judge, low in rank.
Okay.
That's all in terms of
So
appointment.
why a case of this impact?
He's a junior judge.
They give it to a junior judge. Who assigned that?
That probably could go to the point that you were raising earlier, Herb, when you mentioned why is it that the first judge who had the case, who had her opinion about it even then, right, step aside for a junior judge to handle it? Because you know the whole saying in Jamaica, you don't send Thai soldier go battlefront, right? They basically set him up, right? They set him up for the kill. That's one we are looking at it.
I called them a complete idiot on the show yesterday. Basically, that's what I was saying. Because nothing he was saying, on one hand, it's the government. On the other hand, it's her. On one hand, the IC need to investigate. On the other hand, I've made a decision. So if he made a decision, why the IC needs to go investigate? It's the most idiotic sense of reasoning that I've seen coming out of somebody who's supposed to be a learned man.
And all kinds of suggestions in terms of what course it should have taken, which don't make sense.
And go get Buja Banton song involved in it and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
This man is a complete buffoon, right? He just made it hard.
One of the reasons I was saying.
Go ahead,
One of the reasons I was saying, I mean, we didn't need to go too much into his background. A little interest, yes, but we didn't need to go too far into his background. Is that in the end, what matters is the contest of the legal opinion itself. Not so much his background. You have to look at the issues that he raised and whether they were legally sound, right? And contest it on that basis, because in the end, whatever his personal positions are, that's not what the court is going to be looking at.
But lads, check this out.
In terms
check
of
this
an
out,
appeal,
lad.
you're going to have to look at the legal opinion.
But you see, you have people in Jamaica of
Yeah.
simpler minds and a lower stature that have to put up with this man and his rulings.
Yeah.
And if he's gonna rule like this and turn the court into the personal fiefdom of a government minister, right? And protect our government ministers so that the government is not embarrassed. The government should already be embarrassed. The amount of time they catch government
I
ministers
agree.
money laundering, right? They can't explain where all this construction coming from in Jamaica, going up overnight in their districts, to include Olympic Gardens, or the Prime Minister's district, right? They can't to 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 find a man who the DOJ has wanted for over from the 1980s, when Dr. Chang was named in a embassy cable as in association with Ramsharam and Nemhard, two convicted felons now, one still serving 35 years, and they had suspicions about the good doctor back then, and to them is now Minister of National Security. That didn't change who is. Leopard don't change them spots. So the bottom line is, how do you, as the
But what I'm
justice
saying,
system, how do you clean this mess up? That's what we want.
Let me just say that going to
yeah, I
Maxine's
agree with you,
point,
her.
where let me just say going to Maxine's point, where the media mentioned that I couldn't find 5 people in the diaspora who supported me. Here's the rule. The rule is that if you're gonna bring an action on behalf of folks, then you need 5 people who will provide, at least 5 who will provide you with affidavits saying that they've been directly impacted by the decision, or by the action that you're complaining about. You can bring that action in your personal capacity too. So what I did, and you weren't here when I mentioned it. I don't think you were, but I brought that action in my personal capacity and on behalf of all Jamaicans at home and abroad. So even if they wanted to strike it out and say, well, you know what, the rule says you must have affidavits, and we didn't see any affidavits from you, they still have to deal with my claim saying that I am personally affected. They still have to deal with that, and he didn't deal. And the way he dealt with that was to say, whatever the minister did or didn't do, you not personally affected by it, so you have no right to come before this court. That's how we dealt with it. The second thing is, I'm trying to take the high road when it comes to the judiciary, and I'll tell you why. Michael asked a question about background, saying that, well, who's this judge? We need to know his background. Here's why I'm not concerned about that. Because the Court of Appeal is going to make a decision not based on his background. They're going to make an appeal based on his decision. That's what they're going to examine. They're going to scrutinize that and say, okay, the law says this, the facts show this, and the judge did that, and the judge was incorrect. They don't care about whether it's PNP, JLP, UIC, him come from country or town. And so that's where my focus is. I can focus on who he is, where he came from, why he did it. I can focus on that another time. But for now, I'm just focused on his decision. Exactly. That's all I'm focused on right now.
Right.
I don't care about his political affiliation or his background or where he grew up or where he went to school. Because believe me, the 3-panel judge, they're not going to be looking at that. They're going to be looking at that 19-page thing. And they're not going to be looking at it to discern his motivation. To say, oh, we think you did this because you're a JLP, or you did this because they're not. No, they're just going to look at it just black and white, saying that this is what the law says, these are the facts, and this is the decision you made, and the rationale you use, and the rationale faulty. So we have to overrule you and send it back for correction. So that's my take on it.
But I just want to mention something too in terms of the political affiliation matter. The fact of the matter is that all judges in Jamaica are appointed, right? And they have to be appointed by some political body, right? And for the most part, the political body comprises of PNP, JLP, right? There's nothing in the rules that bar you based on your political affiliation. The whole point about it is that that cannot be the matter for you settling an issue. Right? You can use your political position knowingly, right, to decide on issues. So that is why I consider it irrelevant to even mention that, because we don't know who appointed him, right? But that's the case.
And the other thing too is that with judiciary, they're supposed to be above and beyond reproach. They're supposed to be independent and objective arbiters of the law, right?
Right.
So they're given that. They're just like our policeman is given the benefit of the doubt. They're given that these people, you know, they're not gonna lie, they're not gonna steal, they're gonna look at the facts and they're just gonna apply the law and that's it. So having said that,
not even in the Great America is that happening.
no, I'm saying to you that philosophically. I'm saying to you philosophically.
Right.
Okay.
I'm saying to you, no, well, and we know that because you know why? I can't begin to tell you how many judges the FBI has put behind bars.
Okay.
Lots. Yeah, but I'm saying
And I'm
philosophically,
about
this
to
is
put
it.
a president behind bars now too.
There you go. They're about to put a mayor behind bars right now. Right?
And a senator.
and
And a senator, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's why I put up
And
yesterday.
that's a lawmaker.
Yeah, and that's why yesterday I put up the thing about the Portuguese prime minister who's in trouble right now, right? And just trying to give people a sense that we don't have to pander to politicians as if they're demigods. They're people like all of us, and they make mistakes, and sometimes they make egregious mistakes, violations of law, and we cannot tap them on the wrist and say, "Okay, go home, don't do it again." They need to go spend some time down in GP
Hear
and
this,
Tamarind Farm.
Radigan.
Yeah.
Hear this. You know, one of the things we need to recognize and to impress on the listeners and our supporters is that is the historic nature of this action that you took. And it is historic in that many Jamaicans never felt that we could even put something like this before the courts.
True.
Challenge a minister serving, not a minister, not a one-time minister, a serving minister in the present government. You know, this is a historic action that has been taken. And one hurdle, one setback should not be the downfall of this action, right? We can show the people that, I mean, we can still fight. We can still pursue the matter, right? And still look for come out at the winning end. Because, yeah.
No, finish, please.
Yeah, man. The thing is, we've been facing corruption for so long. And so many Jamaicans at home and in the diaspora were of the opinion that we have to accept it. There's nothing we can do about it. These people are politicians, them have power, and them greater than all of us. And the fact that this lawsuit was able to go through the courts, they couldn't stop it, right? It went all the way to a hearing, right? Even though the initial verdict is not what we want it to be, there is still room to fight. And we need to show the Jamaican people that there's a way.
I think
here's hold on a second, Mikey. Here is the thing. I don't view this as a setback like some people would think it is. I view this as an opportunity to highlight the corruption in Jamaica, because now on the appeal level, you know what's going to happen now? Now it's going to get international traction. And just think about what it's going to do to this lady when she has to sit with her because because if this thing had just been finished right now, then it probably wouldn't get much traction, right? And that's the end of that. But with the appeal level now, she has to go sit with people now who know that this woman is accused of some type of circumspect behavior in our country, right? And one of the things that you ascribe to politicians: decency, honesty, integrity. And now they look at her and go, wait a minute, hold on 1 second. Look at this. Look who's sitting at the table with us. And she has to think about that, because now her reputation is damaged. It's solid.
Well,
It's
let me
solid.
ask you this, Ratty.
And all because of her action, not because of what I did, because of what she did.
Well, let me ask you this. Isn't she a lawyer?
On her affidavit.
She
In
is
her
a lawyer.
affidavit. In her
No, she
affidavit.
is.
In her affidavit, the first thing she said, I, Kamina Johnson Smith, I am the senator and I am the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. That's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, she says, and I'm also an attorney.
Yeah, she is. She is.
Right. She passed. She was at the back of her class, though.
I don't know.
No. Well,
Right.
on that,
A perspective,
just
Patrick.
a minute. Maxine,
Yes, what
Yes,
I've experienced in the Jamaica space is that we are coming out of whether it's because of the political era that we are in now, coming out of the colonial one, but there is a high case of paternalism, I think, if that's the word, where the political class actually think that they're acting on behalf of the unrepresented people, right? And they feel that, boy, you and them can have meetings and you have some problems. And, I found myself in a situation where I was in a meeting ostensibly with the minister. It was over the ganja issue. And it was like a meeting with the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice, several lawyers. You'd figure that every lawyer in there was, every personality has to have some legal background. However, when I was representing with the Rastafari, a section of the Rastafari community, and we had brought a lawyer into the negotiations. And it was like, oh, why did we have to bring a lawyer? Because we, generally can have me, work out this impasse. So what I experienced then and in several situations is where the politicians, especially with the communities the inner city communities and people who don't have money to hire lawyers to represent their issues, because that's a big factor in the judicial system in Jamaica, where people who are suffering rights issues in various forums don't actually have the resources to hire the legal aid, and the public defender office are, they're inadequate. And that is a general space. So the politician, maybe over the years, we have to study what type of behavior pattern has arisen from this, scenario, that resources are really not there for the majority population of Jamaicans to challenge rights that they know are being abused. And I don't know what is the legal, like how you have nurses or doctors, the brain drain. I found that the majority of the good lawyers are actually working either for the private sector or the government, and so it's really an interesting scenario there, if we're talking about reparations, to level the playing field. the legal system in Jamaica needs a lot of looking at, or someone could speak to me on what is the constituent base. Like, you know, you have 100 lawyers to 1 million people, or, you know, how is that really squared away there? Because I think I've experienced that the politicians, you know, have an additional power in the space, you know, amongst the people, because they can haul and pull, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a good point, Maxine,
Yeah.
and that's what I was alluding to before. When you have judges like Dale that play around with verdicts, the idea is to make you expend funds that you don't have. And as a result of that, we had to anticipate that and go to the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation as a backup. Because if that's the way that the Chief Justice has approved his judges to act, whenever any member of the diaspora, even members of the diaspora who they know are assisting local folks to fight certain injustices, if you're looking at the court, what they're saying in the court system is don't look here because we can't afford to rule in your direction. So the bottom line is, at this point, we need to call on this Chief Justice to get his act together and that of his judges to ensure that when these cases come to court, we get a fair and impartial hearing. And we don't get no bourgeois bantan quotes in the justice system, which we don't need, right? We need a fair and impartial hearing and a fair and impartial ruling, right? It's got to be in accordance with the law and nothing frivolous like what this guy is entertaining.
What I wanna say to
gentlemen, it's now we've been at it 2 hours and 27 minutes. You know, that's quite a while. So at some point we have to come to an end, you know. Can I go around the room and get some final remarks from the panelists on what we've been talking about so far? Patrick, you wanted to say some things. Give some final remarks.
Yeah, I wanted to address, you know, what Maxine raised, because you know, like Herb said, she raised a very important point. And that goes to the heart of the matter. The fact of the matter is that we are living in a system, right, that is not unique to Jamaica. In fact, Jamaica pretty much borrowed from, you know, the colonial masters, because we're still being ruled under the same colonial system, right? It's a systematic ruling. If you notice, if you were to do the deep dive into who comprise mostly who politicians are, they are lawyers. For the most part, they are lawyers, right? They become lawmakers, right? Because that's the purpose of the parliament, right? Then the other branch of the government, which is judiciary in the case of Jamaica, right? Then, you know, it's they are the ones now who carry out the enforcement of it. But in many instances, even though they are the lawmakers, they don't even write the law. It's law clerks who write the law. Some of these same guys who used to voting in parliament, they don't even read probably all the law, you know, the what is being brought before to be decided on, right? They probably don't even read it before. They have the gist of what's going on, but they are not the ones who really do the work. It's the law clerks. So the real issue is that it's really the scholars who are the workers. Just the same way that when it comes to the government, is really the civil service, the civil servants, right, who are really the ones doing the work, right? But what we do when in electing them, we promote them, right? We promote them to a position And this is what they harness as a power, right? Because their sole purpose after then is to preserve the status quo, right? So that's the whole objective of this system, right? So what it means is that the ones at the bottom really bears the brunt of the burden, right? And that is where you cannot forget in looking at the whole situation.
Okay. Patrick, last, you want to make your final remarks?
Oh, I take a pass. Yeah.
Ratigan?
Support the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation. Go to ojldf.org, and you have a bunch of articles there, including the judge's opinion on the recent matter. And you also find your instructions to make donations, because this issue affects every single one of us.
Get
And
involved.
yeah, get involved. And as we say, if you have a conviction, support it with your cash so that we can get a conviction of those who are guilty of malfeasance, abuse, waste, fraud, corruption, violations of law, etc. Thank you, sir.
Maxine?
Yes, well, I celebrate the ruling because it still opens the door for more assessment, which I think is the purpose. I think the public, as myself, I'm learning more about even the role of this issue of what the foreign minister was attempting to become. She had been granted the what was it, the position, and how it would in effect, and how it, even the fact that the private sector was willing to, or has funds to put towards her position, that was also very interesting as to how, their role is, so it was very revealing to me. So I find the whole thing, the decision sometimes is like, people say lawsuits are good because not necessarily for you to win the case, but for the information to be, raised up and more issues. And it's actually a learning process. So I look forward to the appeal and more funding from the diaspora to come into the legal, the fund that is being promoted here, because I think that's a major platform, not just for this, but for Jamaican people overall, is to get resources into the judiciary system, not necessarily, just like how independent thinkers as well and positions.
Herb?
Mike, I recall an interesting individual. I think he's since deceased. Larry Flint from Hustler magazine. And I remember when all these Republicans were hiding in the closet and doing their thing, Larry offered $1 million to anybody who can get him the evidence on these Republicans.
Mr. Livingston.
Right. And then what happened? The guy who was the biggest pastor of all, turns out that he was going to a gay masseuse who took care of his every need. And all of a sudden, when he went down, here comes a whole bunch of politicians and others tumbling down behind him. Jamaica needs a Larry Flint. They need somebody to offer good money so you can move from Jamaica to another island, right? Maybe if we can get the $1 million that a gentleman that we spoke to, Will and myself, we could set up a system that would ensure that that we get all the information we needed, and then we're able to move people from Jamaica to another island. And then we could go about crushing these fake judges and fake lawyers that they have down there that's stealing people's money and not getting them the results. You cannot do service to your country by doing this kind of shenanigans in cahoots with the government, right? You cannot clean up government if you're there as their watchdogs. So the bottom line is, yes, we need to get enough money so we can do the things that we I see somebody post Crime Stoppers in Jamaica. I don't know, they've been paying out a record amounts of money this year and last year. In the US, it's up to $1,000 US. That would put that at 155,000 Jamaican dollars. Maybe we ought to offer a substantial amount to get people to flip on these dirty politicians and those in the private sector who are just as dirty doing double dealings with the government. Protect the population and protect the people of Jamaica and put integrity back into everything that they're doing. Thank you.
Well, I think we all want to restore integrity in the government and governance in the country, But that is part of the struggle. Part of the struggle. Mr. Rattigan, you have opened a door for us. And my hope is that not just you, but many more Jamaicans will walk through that door and hold the government accountable. We can only do so much in 2.5 hours. We can talk, but it's going to come down to putting money into the legal defense fund, because it's going to take you some cash to get the documents ready for the appeal court and whatever. So, listeners, I'm appealing to you. Join the One Jamaica Legal Defense Fund. Mr. Rattigan is going to need that, and you're going to benefit.
Like, share, and subscribe too.
Yeah. And while you do that, yes, I agree with Patrick. Like, share, and subscribe this channel, because we're not into the cuss, we try to probe here and there and go in. Sometimes we make some extreme remarks, but a Jamaican all over. We have our way. We sometimes we say this and then we regret it. But such is life. Mr. Radical, you want to say something?
Mike, I just wanted to add, you have two multimillionaires that won the lottery in Bronx, New York.
I saw that.
And if those people are listening, we would love for you to give us 500,000 US a piece. And then you don't have to ever worry again about crime in Jamaica.
Oh, that's a big axe. That is a big axe. But
if you love Jamaica, you make the sacrifice.
Well, on that note, I want to thank everyone and thank the listeners, the viewers. Until next week. I'm sorry some of the other panelists didn't turn up. I think Mr. Arton is not feeling so well. That's it. So, brothers and sisters, Sister Maxine, until next Sunday, we'll all meet again.
Have a great week.
Same here.
All right, brethren and
sisters. Blessings all. Take care.
Blessings.